The underestimation, the fortress moon of Kethma, hung like a metallic scar against the purple nebula of the Andorian sector, deep within its reinforced core. The War Council of the Zephyrian Empire had gathered for what they believed would be their most important meeting in centuries. The circular chamber, carved from solid neutronium, housed representatives from 12 different species, all united under the Zephyrian banner of conquest. Commander Zixtal stood at the center of the room, his towering 8-foot frame casting long shadows across the holographic display. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the harsh lighting, and his forearms moved with practiced precision as he manipulated the star charts floating before them. The Zephyrian had led successful campaigns against 47 worlds, and his reputation for swift, brutal victories preceded him across the galaxy. Honored allies, Zixtal began, his voice a deep rumble that resonated through the chambers. Acoustic amplifiers. Today we discuss our next conquest. A world rich in resources, strategically positioned, and populated by a species so primitive they still burn fossil fuels for energy. High Counselor Mordic, a being whose translucent skin revealed the complex neural networks beneath, leaned forward in his containment suit. The aquatic Mordic were renowned throughout the galaxy for their strategic brilliance, their minds capable of processing thousands of variables simultaneously. Show us this world, Commander. Let us see what promises such easy victory. The hologram shifted, displaying a blue and green sphere rotating slowly in the darkness. Earth appeared peaceful, almost inviting, with its swirling white clouds and vast oceans. To the assembled aliens, it looked like countless other worlds they had conquered, beautiful, defenseless, and ripe for the taking. The third planet of a system the locals call Sol Zixtal continued. Population approximately 8 billion of a bipedal species that calls itself human. Our reconnaissance indicates they have barely achieved interplanetary travel, with only rudimentary settlements on their nearest celestial body. Scout Captain Velanara, whose moth-like wings shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, activated her personal display. Her species, the Luminari, were master infiltrators and information gatherers. I have spent 3 cycles observing their transmissions, she reported in her melodic voice. Their entertainment broadcasts show constant internal conflict, wars over resources, territorial disputes, religious differences. They appear incapable of true unity. Murmurs of satisfaction rippled through the chamber. The assembled species nodded their various heads, mandibles, and sensory organs in agreement. A divided world was always easier to conquer. Mordic's massive brain pulsed visibly as he processed the data. What of their defensive capabilities? Even primitive species can prove troublesome if they possess sufficient weaponry. Velanara's wing patterns shifted to a confident blue-green. Primitive by our standards. They still use chemical propulsion for space travel. Their most advanced weapons are nuclear fission devices, devastating to their own kind but essentially harmless to our shielded vessels. They have no energy weapons, no antimatter drives, no quantum communicators. They are, by all measures, defenseless against a coordinated assault. The chamber erupted in excited chittering, growling, and humming as the various species expressed their enthusiasm. The Corvan delegation, massive, bear-like creatures with cybernetic implants, pounded their metal-enhanced fists against their seats. The insectoid hive means of Zarian clicked their approval in perfect synchronization, but it was the soft, almost whispered comment from the corner that caught everyone's attention. They destroyed their own moon. The chamber fell silent. All Eyes turned to the speaker, to Canalist Quran of the Silicon Collective. A. Artificial intelligence housed in a crystalline matrix. The A's were newer members of the Zephyrian Empire, having been conquered only 50 cycles ago, but their analytical capabilities were unmatched. Explain, Zixtal commanded, his tone sharp. Quran's crystal form pulsed with amber light, long range. Spectral analysis reveals extensive scarring on their satellite surface, crater patterns inconsistent with natural meteor impacts. The humans deliberately bombarded their own moon with nuclear weapons. The question remains, why would a species destroy part of their own celestial system? For a moment, uncertainty flickered across the faces of the War Council. But Mordic's response quickly dispelled any concerns, clearly a demonstration of their wasteful nature. Primitive minds often destroy what they do not understand. This only confirms their lack of strategic thinking. Velanara nodded eagerly. Our psychological profiles indicate humans are highly emotional, prone to irrational decisions. They fight among themselves constantly, waste resources on frivolous pursuits, and show little evidence of long-term planning. They are the perfect target for subjugation. Zixtal raised all 4 of his arms, calling for attention. The decision is clear. Earth possesses vast water reserves, diverse biological specimens, and sufficient mineral wealth to fuel our expansion for generations. The humans themselves will make excellent worker drones once properly conditioned. The formal vote was a mere formality. 12 species, representing billions of beings across the galaxy, unanimously agreed to invade Earth. The holographic display shifted to show fleet positions, invasion routes, and predicted resistance levels. According to their calculations, the entire operation would be completed within 1 solar cycle, as the Council dispersed to begin preparations. None of them noticed the small probe that had been silently observing their meeting from beyond the sensor range of their fortress moon. No larger than a grain of sand, it had been recording every word, every gesture, every strategic detail discussed in what they believed was their impregnable stronghold. The probe began its journey back to Earth, carrying with it the complete invasion plans of the Zephyrian Empire. 3 months later, the largest invasion fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of the Sol system. Over 3,000 ships of various designs and capabilities formed a massive armada that stretched across millions of kilometers of space. Dreadnoughts from the Corvan worlds bristled with plasma cannons. Swarm ships from the Zarian hives moved in perfect coordination. Zephyrian command vessels maintained formation at the fleet's center, their commanders confident in their overwhelming superiority. Commander Zixtal stood on the bridge of the flagship subjugator, watching as his forces prepared for what would surely be the easiest conquest in his illustrious career. The blue world of Earth hung before them, seemingly unaware of the doom approaching from the darkness. "All ships report ready for assault," announced his communications officer, a multi-talented being whose species specialized in coordinating complex military operations. Target planet shows no signs of organized defense. No energy signatures beyond primitive nuclear reactors. No fleet movements detected. Zixtal allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. Begin the invasion. All vessels, advance to attack formation. Remember, we want the infrastructure intact. Minimize surface bombardment to essential military targets only. The great fleet began to move. Thousands of ships accelerating toward Earth with the confidence of predators approaching helpless prey. Their sensors showed exactly what they expected. A quiet, defenseless world with no apparent means of resisting their assault. They were halfway to Earth when the first anomaly appeared on their screens. "Commander," the sensor operator called out, confusion evident in their clicking voice. "I'm detecting ... something. Multiple contacts, but they're not showing up as ships. The signatures are ... unusual." Zixtor moved to the sensor station, his 4 eyes focusing on the display. What he saw made no immediate sense. There were indeed contacts appearing on the screen, but they seemed to be emerging from empty space itself. No ships, no energy signatures, just ... presence, malfunction. He asked, though he knew his equipment was beyond such simple failures. "Negative, sir. All systems operating within normal parameters. The contacts are real, but they're not conforming to any known vessel configuration." More reports began flooding in from across the fleet. Ships that had been scanning empty space moments before were now detecting massive objects that seemed to materialize from nowhere. The contacts were enormous, far larger than any ship in the invasion fleet, yet they produced no heat, no electromagnetic signatures, no indication of how they were powered or propelled. Then came the message. It appeared simultaneously on every screen in the Zephyrian fleet, broadcast on frequencies that their ships shouldn't have been able to receive. The image was simple: a human face, middle-aged, with graying hair and calm, intelligent eyes. The woman wore what appeared to be a military uniform, though unlike any the aliens had seen in their intelligence reports. "Greetings," she said in perfect Zephyrian, her pronunciation flawless despite the complexity of their language. "I am Director Sarah Chen of Earth's Planetary Defense Initiative. We've been expecting you." The words sent a chill through the invasion fleet. How could the humans know they were coming? How could they speak Zephyrian? How were they broadcasting directly to their ships through their own secured communications systems? Director Chen continued, her voice remaining calm and professional. "We intercepted your War Council's decision to invade our world approximately 97 days ago. We appreciate the advance notice. It gave us sufficient time to prepare an appropriate welcome." Zixtel felt something he had never experienced in centuries of warfare: genuine uncertainty. "Impossible," he growled to his bridge crew. "Their technology is primitive. They cannot have achieved faster-than-light communication, much less surveillance. Capabilities advanced enough to monitor our fortress moon." But even as he spoke, the evidence continued to mount against everything they thought they knew about humanity. The mysterious contacts on their sensors were resolving into clearer images, and what they revealed defied all logic and expectation. Ships massive, sleek vessels that dwarfed even the largest Zephyrian dreadnoughts were emerging from what appeared to be cloaking fields so advanced they rendered the vessels completely invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. The human fleet, for it could only be human, had been there all along, waiting in perfect silence for the invaders to come within range. "We know you've come here believing us to be primitive," Director Chen continued, her image still broadcast across every screen in the fleet. "We know you see us as easy prey, suitable only for conquest and slavery. We know because we've been listening to your communications, studying your tactics, and preparing for this moment for far longer than you realize." The human fleet continued to decloak, revealing vessel after vessel of advanced design. Energy signatures were beginning to appear on sensors, and the readings were unlike anything in the galactic databases. These weren't primitive nuclear reactors or chemical propulsion systems. These were technologies that the Zephyrian Empire, with all its conquered knowledge, had never encountered. Panic began to spread through the invasion fleet as commanders realized they were not facing the helpless prey they had expected, but predators who had been lying in wait. The psychological impact was devastating. Species that had conquered dozens of worlds found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew about warfare, about technology, about humanity itself. And through it all, Director Chen's calm voice continued to speak, delivering words that would echo through galactic history for generations to come. You came here to conquer us. You assumed we were weak because we appeared divided. You thought we were primitive because we seemed to struggle with basic interplanetary travel. You believed we would be easy prey because that's what we wanted you to believe. She paused, letting the implications sink in across thousands of alien minds. So let me be very clear about something. We are not primitive. We are not divided when it matters. And we are definitely not easy prey. You want to invade Earth. You want to enslave humanity. The image of Director Chen leaned forward slightly, her expression shifting from professional courtesy to something far more dangerous. Try. The response, the single word echoed through the communication systems of 3,000 alien warships, each syllable carrying a weight that seemed to press against the consciousness of every invader. In that moment, the carefully constructed assumptions of the Zephyrian Empire began to crumble like sandcastles before a tsunami. Commander Zixtel stared at the tactical display, his forearms trembling slightly as he processed what he was seeing. The human fleet continued to emerge from their impossibly advanced stealth fields, vessel after vessel revealing themselves until the space around Earth bristled with defensive formations that made his own massive armada look almost quaint by comparison. Analysis, he barked to his sensor operator, though his voice lacked its usual commanding confidence. The multi-limbed technician's tentacles danced over the control surfaces, pulling up readings that made no sense. Commander, the energy signatures are ... unprecedented. Their power sources are generating readings that exceed our theoretical maximums, and their ship configurations. The operator paused, double-checking readings that seemed impossible. Sir, some of their vessels appear to be constructed from materials that don't exist in our periodic tables. The molecular density readings suggest they've achieved some form of matter compression that our physics models say should be impossible. High Counselor Mordic's voice crackled over the fleet-wide communication channel, his usual analytical calm replaced by something approaching panic. All vessels, maintain position. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage until we understand what we're facing. But understanding was proving elusive. Everything the Zephyrian Empire thought they knew about human capabilities was being demolished by the evidence before their eyes. Aboard the Earth Defense Command vessel Endurance, Director Sarah Chen stood in a command center that hummed with quiet efficiency. Banks of holographic displays showed real-time tactical information, not just of the current engagement, but of monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. The room itself seemed to blend organic curves with geometric precision, its design aesthetic unlike anything the observing aliens had ever encountered. Admiral Marcus Webb, a tall man with silver hair and eyes that had seen too many battles, approached from the tactical station. Sarah, we're receiving surrender requests from 17% of their fleet. The psychological impact is working exactly as we predicted. Chen nodded without taking her eyes off the main display. The Zephyrians always relied too heavily on overwhelming force and assumed superiority. They've never faced an opponent who was prepared for them. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the expedition's xenobiologist and first contact specialist, looked up from her analysis station. Her expression was troubled, despite the apparent success of their strategy. We're seeing panic responses across multiple species. In their fleet, the Corvin delegation is showing stress indicators that suggest some of their crew may be entering hibernation shock. The Luminari are cycling through panic bioluminescence patterns. Chen's expression softened slightly. Despite the circumstances, she genuinely regretted the fear they were causing. Open a channel to the fleet command vessel. It's time for the next phase. The main screen shifted to show the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship. Commander Zixtal appeared in the frame, his exoskeleton showing stress patterns that Elena immediately recognized as indicators of extreme distress in his species. "Commander Zixtal," Chen began, her voice carrying the same professional courtesy as before. "I believe we need to have a conversation." The alien commander's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation that Elena's cultural database identified immediately. "You, ... How do you know our language so fluently? How do you know my name?" "Your intelligence reports indicated no knowledge of galactic linguistics." Chen smiled, and the expression somehow managed to be both reassuring and unsettling. "Our intelligence reports showed you exactly what we wanted you to see. We've been monitoring galactic communications for over 2 centuries. We've known about the Zephyrian Empire since your conquest of the Altarian system in 2247. We've been learning, studying, and preparing ever since. The revelation sent shockwaves through the alien fleet. To centuries. That would mean humans had achieved faster-than-light communication technology before they'd even established permanent colonies on Mars. Everything in their intelligence reports suggested humanity had barely achieved basic spaceflight." Admiral Webb stepped into the frame beside Chen. "The moon bombardment your analysts observed. That wasn't waste or primitive aggression. Those were weapons tests. We were testing the effectiveness of our kinetic bombardment systems against hardened targets. The craters you saw were data points in a centuries-long military development program. Zixtal's stress patterns intensified. Impossible. Our surveillance showed constant internal conflict, resource wars, religious disputes, all carefully maintained for external observation." Dr. Rodriguez interjected as she joined the conversation. "Did you really think a species capable of achieving global communication networks wouldn't be capable of coordinated deception? Every transmission you intercepted, every news broadcast you monitored, every social media post your agents catalogued, all of it was crafted to present the image we wanted you to see." The concept was staggering to the alien mindset. The Zephyrian Empire, like most galactic powers, operated under the assumption that technological development followed predictable patterns. A species either possessed advanced capabilities or it didn't. The idea that an entire world could maintain a deception of primitive status for centuries was beyond their comprehension. "Why?" Mordic's voice came through the communication channel, his aquatic form visible in a smaller display. "Window? Why maintain such an elaborate deception? What purpose does it serve?" Chen's expression grew more serious. "Because we learned something about the galaxy long before we ever revealed ourselves to it. We learned that advanced species don't seek peaceful contact with emerging civilizations. They seek conquest, targets. Every race that achieved interstellar travel in the past millennium was either conquered or absorbed by existing powers within decades of their emergence." She gestured to the tactical display, which now showed historical data of galactic conquests. The Altarians, the Meridian Collective, the Crystal Singers of Vega, all advanced civilizations, all conquered by powers like your empire because they revealed their capabilities too early, before they were truly ready to defend themselves. Admiral Webb's voice carried the weight of military experience. So we made a choice. We would develop in secret, hidden behind a facade of primitive tribalism, until we were not just ready to defend ourselves, but ready to change the nature of galactic politics entirely. The implications were staggering, and they weren't lost on the more intelligent members of the invasion fleet. Humanity hadn't just developed defensive capabilities. They had fundamentally altered the strategic balance of the galaxy by introducing the concept of hidden development and deceptive intelligence. What do you want from us? Zik asked, his voice small and uncertain. The proud commander who had conquered 47 worlds was beginning to understand that he was facing an opponent unlike any he had ever encountered. Chen consulted with her advisors briefly before responding. First, you're going to transmit a complete stand-down order to your fleet. No aggressive actions, no weapon charging, no attempt to withdraw until we've completed our discussion. Alien Commander's mandibles clicked rapidly, but he complied. Orders went out across the invasion fleet, and 3,000 warships powered down their weapons, systems in a display of submission that would have been unthinkable just hours earlier. Second, Chen continued, you're going to provide us with complete intelligence files on every world your empire has conquered, every species you've enslaved, and every strategic asset you control. That's state secrets of the highest classification, Mordic protested. Dr. Rodriguez smiled, and the expression was sharp enough to cut diamond. Counselor, let me explain something about your classified information. We've been monitoring your communications for 2 centuries. We know about the slave camps on Zerion Prime. We know about the strip mining operations that destroyed the ecosystem of Altair 4. We know about the breeding programs you've imposed on conquered species. She paused, letting the full implications sink in. We know everything. What we want from you is official confirmation and complete data files so we can begin the process of liberation and restoration. The word liberation sent another shock wave through the fleet. The humans weren't just defending themselves, they were positioning themselves as liberators of conquered species. It was a concept that fundamentally challenged the entire structure of galactic civilization. Zixtor's stress patterns were now visible even to human observers. You speak of liberation as if you have the power to challenge the entire empire. We are one fleet among thousands. Even if you defeat us here, the empire will send others. Admiral Webb's laugh was cold and professional. Commander, you're still thinking in terms of traditional warfare. You see our defensive fleet and assume this is the extent of our capabilities. Let me show you something. The main display shifted to show a star chart of the local galactic sector. As they watched, red indicators began appearing throughout the display, hundreds of them, scattered across dozens of systems. Those markers represent human monitoring stations and concealed defense platforms, Webb explained. We've been establishing them for over a century, using stealth technology your sensors can't detect. Every major shipping lane, every military base, every strategic resource in your empire's territory is under constant surveillance. Chen stepped forward again. But more importantly, those stations contain something your empire has never encountered: liberation beacons, quantum communicators that can instantly transmit across galactic distances, carrying a very specific message. Dr. Rodriguez activated another display, this one showing communication patterns spreading outward from Earth like ripples in a pond. The message is being transmitted right now, on frequencies that every known species can receive, in every known galactic language. It's very simple. Humanity has emerged as a spacefaring civilization. We've successfully defended against the Zephyrian Empire's invasion fleet, and we're offering protection and assistance to any species seeking freedom from imperial rule. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Across the invasion fleet, commanders began receiving reports from their home worlds of massive communication disruptions as enslaved populations received humanity's liberation message. Slave revolts were beginning on a dozen worlds, and the careful structure of imperial control was starting to crumble. But Chen wasn't finished. The third thing we want from you is simple. Go home, all of you. Return to your worlds and your masters, and tell them exactly what happened here. Tell them that humanity is no longer hiding. Tell them that the age of easy conquest is over. She paused, her expression growing darker. And tell them that we'll be watching. Every act of aggression, every enslavement, every world stripped bare for resources, we'll know about it and will respond. Not with invasion fleets or conquest, but with liberation technology that will free the oppressed and expose the oppressors. The alien commanders found themselves facing a choice they had never imagined possible. They could attempt to fight a clearly superior force and face certain destruction, or they could return home and report a failure so complete it would fundamentally alter the balance of galactic power. Zik still made his decision. Fleet command to all vessels. Prepare for immediate withdrawal. All ships return to home systems. As the massive invasion fleet began its retreat, Director Chen turned to her staff. Alina, begin Phase 2. It's time to make contact with every enslaved species in the Empire. Marcus, prepare the liberation fleets. We have a lot of work to do. Dr. Rodriguez nodded, her fingers already dancing over communication controls. Sarah, are you sure we're ready for this? We're about to become the dominant power in this sector of the galaxy. Chen looked out at the stars, where 3,000 alien warships were fleeing from a species they had thought primitive just hours before. Alina, we've been ready for this moment for 200 years. Humanity didn't spend centuries hiding just to defend ourselves. We hid so we could emerge strong enough to change everything. Admiral Webb joined them at the observation deck. The galaxy is about to learn something new about human nature. We don't just fight to survive. We fight to make sure others can survive too. As Earth's liberation fleets began to emerge from their concealed positions throughout the galaxy, and as the first reports of successful slave revolts reached the fleeing Zephyrian forces, one thing became clear: the age of galactic empires was ending, and the age of human-led liberation was about to begin. The single-word try had become the first shot in a revolution that would reshape galactic civilization for millennia to come.